The best commentaries from the last video.
It began like any other day. My alarm blared at dawn, and I'd pushed myself upright, the familiar hum of the coffee maker coming from the kitchen. Emma, my wife of 5 years, still lay asleep beside me, her breathing slow and steady, completely unaware of how that morning would change both our lives forever. I remember the subtle glow of early sunlight creeping through the curtains. There was a sense of quiet comfort in the room, the same sense I'd woken up to for years. Outside, the world was still shaking off its slumber. Inside, everything felt ordinary, until it wasn't. My phone began to buzz on the bedside table. Thinking it might be some routine work notification, I reached over and picked it up. My eyes were still heavy with sleep, but I froze when I saw who had messaged me, Emma. In the dim light, I read the words over and over, unable to make sense of them. I'm leaving you. I'm going to be with someone who truly understands me. No matter how many times I blinked, those words wouldn't change. For a moment, I thought it had to be some sort of prank, or a weird misunderstanding. Why would Emma text me something so final, so cruel, when she was lying right next to me? I glanced at her sleeping form, and every emotion I'd ever known stormed through my head: shock, confusion, fear, and a surge of anger I could barely contain. Was she dreaming peacefully while my world collapsed? I wanted to wake her, to demand an explanation right then, but a cold wave of panic kept me glued in place. Instead, I read the text again. She claimed she was going to be with someone else. My wife, my best friend, the woman I'd planned my future with. Gone. I couldn't reconcile the message on my phone with the person who'd kissed me goodnight just hours before. The next hour was torture. My mind spun in circles. Maybe it was a nightmare, or maybe there was some bizarre reason behind it, a misunderstanding, a dreadful mistake. All the while, Emma slept on, oblivious to the tumult raging inside me. Finally she stirred. Her eyes opened, but she wouldn't meet my gaze. Slowly she slid out of bed, walked to the closet, and began pulling out clothes, shoving them into a bag. My heart pounded. Everything moved in slow motion, yet I felt time rushing past me. I needed to stop her. Emma, I managed, my voice strangled. What's happening? Who is he? Why are you doing this? Her back was turned, her posture tense. She didn't answer immediately. Then, in a tone so quiet I almost missed it, she said, He's someone who understands me better than you ever did. I was too stunned to respond. A million questions clashed in my head. Why now? Had she been planning this? And who was this man that she felt so connected to? She left without saying another word. I didn't chase her. I couldn't. My mind was paralyzed, stuck on the shocking truth that my wife had just walked out, seemingly for good. The house we'd shared for years felt suddenly hollow, like a stage set where the main actor had departed, leaving the rest of the cast bewildered. That day stretched out endlessly. I kept expecting to wake from a twisted dream. My phone remained silent, except for the text that wouldn't stop echoing in my thoughts. I'm leaving you. When dusk came, the darkness deepened my sense of isolation. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how everything had fallen apart in a single morning. Where had we gone wrong? Were there signs I had ignored? Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, my phone buzzed again. A flicker of hope rose in my chest. Maybe it was Emma with an apology. But the name on the screen made my stomach drop. Mark. Mark had been my closest friend for years, practically a brother. A man I trusted with everything from my childhood memories to the biggest decisions of my adult life. Hey man, it's Mark. We need to talk. That was all it said. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part of me, fueled by panic, hammered out a quick response. What's going on? Do you know where Emma is? The reply came swiftly. She's with me. I'm sorry, Jake. I need to tell you the truth. We've been seeing each other for a while, and she's leaving you for me. My heart might have stopped altogether at that moment. The second shock of the day was somehow worse than the first. My best friend. My wife. The two people I was closest to in the world had been together. My mind reeled. How had I never noticed? Why hadn't Emma told me she was unhappy? Or had she, and I'd simply ignored the warning signs? As my confusion morphed into white-hot rage, I jumped to my feet and grabbed my keys. I was at Mark's place before I realized what I was doing, my knuckles white around the steering wheel. I pounded on his door, uncertain whether I wanted to scream at him or beg him to admit it was all a lie. He answered, looking haggard and guilty. The tension was suffocating. "Jake." His voice trailed off. "You and Emma?" I forced the words out. "How could you do this?" He couldn't look me in the eyes. "I never meant for it to happen," he mumbled. "It just did. We tried to fight it at first, but—" "Don't," I snapped. "Don't give me excuses. How long has this been going on?" He hesitated, then finally whispered, "About 6 months. 6 months. I staggered backward as though he'd punched me. While I was living my normal life, waking, working, coming home to Emma, she had been sharing her heart, and likely her bed, with my best friend. I demanded answers, but each response only worsened the pain. Mark admitted Emma felt neglected, that we'd grown distant. They'd found solace in each other, or so he claimed. And in that moment, I grasped the scale of their betrayal. It wasn't an impulsive fling. It was a secret relationship, nurtured in the shadows of my ignorance. Leaving Mark's apartment, I realized I had no idea what my life was anymore. Emma had walked out, Mark had taken everything I thought was secure, and I was left with nothing but the swirling chaos in my mind. That night, I checked into a motel, ignoring the hollow ache in my chest. Sleep eluded me as I replayed every detail of the day. The next morning, I decided I couldn't confront this alone. I called Tom, another close friend, someone I hoped I could still trust. "Emma left me for Mark," I said as soon as he answered. My words came out in a rush. Tom's shocked silence spoke volumes. I filled him in on the grim details, and he listened with the compassion I desperately needed. "You can't let them get away with this," he finally said, his voice grave. "You need to find out the whole story. Don't let them hide." He was right. I wouldn't let their secrets remain hidden. I needed to know everything, how it started, how Emma felt, what they had planned. Ignorance had been my downfall, so I was determined to drag every lie into the open. I drove back to the house Emma and I had shared. Entering felt surreal. The place was filled with memories of us, dinners in the kitchen, lazy Sundays on the couch. Now, each memory was tainted. In our bedroom, her side of the closet was half empty, clothes strewn about in a hurry. Anger simmered, but so did sadness. I had thought we were building a life together. I rummaged through drawers, scanning for hints that might reveal how long Emma had been planning to leave. In the study, I recalled Emma kept important documents locked in a desk drawer. My adrenaline spiked as I jimmied it open with a paperclip, almost surprised at my own desperation. Inside, I found receipts from hotels and restaurants, all signed by Emma. The dates stretched back months, some even from last year, if the faded ink was any indication. Tucked beneath them was a photo, Emma and Mark, arms around each other, smiles radiating. It was on some beach, but I had never seen these pictures before. My heart twisted in agony as I realized they'd likely had a private getaway under the guise of solo time or business trips. Emails, too, Emma's personal messages to Mark about meeting up, about confessions of love, about me. My name was scrawled in short, dismissive lines, like they were discussing a stranger or worse, an obstacle. All illusions shattered. They hadn't slipped up one lonely night. They were methodically, willfully entangled, building a relationship parallel to the life Emma pretended to share with me. The betrayal stung. Yet, a small part of me blamed myself for missing red flags. Maybe I was too consumed with work or personal routines. Maybe I assumed Emma was content because she never voiced otherwise, yet, according to those emails, she had voiced her complaints to Mark. I spent hours in that study, processing each piece of proof. Fury coursed through me, but it was matched by a profound sorrow. Everything I thought I knew, every vow, every moment of trust, felt like a farce. With a trembling breath, I realized I had to face them both. Emma wouldn't return my calls. Mark, however, answered on the second ring when I demanded a meeting. We arranged to meet in a park, a public place. Maybe he was worried I'd physically assault him if we met in private. I didn't blame him for thinking that. When I arrived, he was already on a bench, staring at the ground. I approached in silence, the tension thick enough to choke on. "I know everything," I said, refusing to sit. "The hotels, the photos, the messages. You two have been lying to me for months." Mark's eyes flicked up, then back down. "Jake, I'm sorry. I never wanted this to happen." "Stop saying that." My voice wavered. "You and Emma. You planned this from the start." He shook his head. "We didn't plan it. She was just so distant from you, and we ended up talking more and more. It happened. Don't put this on me." My anger flared. "Don't say she was distant because I was a bad husband. You should have told me. You both should have told me." Mark said nothing, which was answer enough. After a few beats of silence, I turned and walked away. I had nothing left to say to him. There would never be enough apologies. Returning to the empty house that night, I was overwhelmed by how drastically my life had changed in mere days. The next morning, I decided to talk to Emma's mother, Linda. Maybe she had insights into Emma's behavior. Linda looked genuinely shocked when I showed up at her door. We'd never been extremely close, but we had a cordial relationship. "Jake, dear, what's wrong?" The worry was clear in her eyes. I explained everything, from the moment I saw Emma's text to the revelations about Mark. Linda listened quietly, her face grave. "I had no idea," she said softly. "Emma never mentioned Mark. I knew she seemed stressed, but I thought it was just married life. I'm so sorry, Jake." I believed her. Linda seemed genuinely taken aback, though she admitted Emma had been distant for a while. "But I never thought she'd do something like this," Linda whispered. "She grew up valuing loyalty. Or so I thought." I left Linda's with no clear answers, just the heartbreak of knowing Emma had hoodwinked even her own mother. It underscored how thorough the deception was. In the following days I drifted through life, uncertain where to turn next. My phone's silence was somehow the loudest part of my day. Emma was gone, Mark was out of my life, and the friendly faces I once counted on were overshadowed by the magnitude of this betrayal. Tom called to check on me, offering solace where he could. "You gotta be strong, man," he said. "They aren't worth it." Part of me believed him. Another part of me felt I needed closure, even if it would only reopen fresh wounds. Then, late one evening, my phone buzzed again with a message from Emma. "Can we talk?" I stared at it, unsure what to feel. Anger? Hope? Rejection? Did I even want to hear her voice again? Eventually, I wrote back, "What do you want?" Her reply was almost immediate. "I know I hurt you. I know you won't forgive me. But there's something you should know. Can we talk on the phone?" I wrestled with my emotions. Against my better judgment, I dialed her number. Her voice was subdued, lacking that familiar warmth. "Mark lied to me too," she said after an awkward greeting. "He's been seeing someone else. All this time, he was with me and her." She paused, perhaps expecting me to show sympathy. Instead, I felt a bitter satisfaction that her betrayal had backfired. She'd left me, but Mark was no better. I sighed, not sure how to respond. "You left me for him," I finally said. "Now you're telling me he's a liar too? What am I supposed to do with that information, Emma?" She sounded close to tears. I wanted you to know. I see now what a mistake I made." I closed my eyes, the events of the last weeks crashing over me. A mistake is oversleeping or forgetting a birthday. You planned this. You lied to me for months, maybe longer. Silence hung between us. "I'm sorry," she whispered. That word, sorry, felt both too much and too little. I told her I was done, that I had nothing else to say, and ended the call, heart pounding. Surprisingly, I felt lighter afterward, as if I'd finally cut the last thread binding me to Emma's chaos. My next step was simple: get out of the house. I packed a bag and drove to Derek's place, a friend I'd known since childhood, asking if I could crash on his couch. "Dude, take all the time you need," Derek told me, giving me a sympathetic pat on the back. For the first few days, I drifted in a haze. But gradually, I realized I had choices: remain a victim of their betrayal, or start rebuilding. For the first time in years, I began to ask myself what I wanted, who I wanted to be. Derek encouraged me to focus on hobbies I'd neglected, so I started running again, something I hadn't done since college. My lungs burned, but each mile felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I also started cooking, discovering that the process of making a decent meal was therapeutic, reminding me I could nourish myself instead of relying on someone else. I reconnected with friends, forging new bonds with people who genuinely cared about me. Slowly, I found my laughter again, in small moments I once took for granted, like joking with Derek about old memories or trying a new cafe in town. Then one night Derek said something that stuck. "You know, you should get away, see the world. Get a fresh start." The more I thought about it, the more appealing it became. I'd always dreamed of traveling, but it was one of those things Emma and I kept putting off. Maybe this was the chance to do something just for me. Within weeks, I had booked a flight to Italy. It felt rash, but also liberating. I wasn't running away, I was running forward, towards something new. When I landed in Rome, I felt a surge of excitement and fear. The ancient cobblestones, the bustling markets, the aroma of fresh espresso. It was a world apart from the silent tension of my life back home. Those first few days, I wandered aimlessly, letting the city's rhythm guide me. I sipped cappuccinos in tiny cafes, trying my best to converse with locals in halting Italian. For the first time since Emma's text, I smiled without effort. A part of me expected to feel lonely, traveling by myself. But instead, I found a profound sense of independence. I wasn't answering to anyone. If I wanted to visit a certain museum or skip it, it was my choice alone. Near the Trevi Fountain, I tossed in a coin, making a wish not for romance or revenge, but for peace. The heartbreak had scarred me, sure, but I didn't need to cling to it forever. That was the turning point. Gradually, my bitterness softened into acceptance. Emma had chosen her path. Mark had shown his true colors. I refused to let their choices determine my self-worth. I extended my stay, traveling to Florence, then Venice. Each city offered new wonders: art galleries, hidden alleyways, culinary delights. My mind was no longer consumed by Emma or Mark. Instead, I thought about the future I could build, on my own terms. Several weeks later, I found myself in a small Venetian cafe, the smell of pastries enveloping me. As I typed on my laptop, updating Tom and Derek about my adventures, I realized how much I'd changed. The man who left home was broken, defined by betrayal. The man I was becoming embraced possibility. One afternoon, resting on the bank of a canal, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. There were images of Emma and me smiling at birthdays, vacations, gatherings. Some part of me felt a sting of sadness, but I also understood how those moments were overshadowed by her deception. Still, not every memory was worthless. They were chapters of my life, lessons learned. As the sun dipped low over the water, I closed my eyes and reflected on everything. I could still love the part of myself that once loved Emma, while accepting she was gone. I was not defined by their betrayal. A month turned into 2, and I found a certain peace in letting my wanderlust take me to new places: Madrid, Barcelona, small towns in the Spanish countryside. Each journey reminded me I had a life beyond the confines of a ruined marriage. I had the freedom to decide what came next. Derek messaged me often, amazed at my resilience. I'd text him pictures of sunsets, of historic landmarks, of the smiling faces I met along the way. He'd respond with encouragement and pride, as though he always knew I'd bounce back once I was free from the shadows of my past. Eventually, I realized I wanted more than just travel. I wanted a fresh start in every sense. Maybe a new city, a new career, or a new passion. The possibilities were wide open, and for the first time in forever, that excited rather than scared me. On a breezy morning in Barcelona, I woke up early to watch the sunrise. From a park overlooking the city, I saw the sky ignite in pink and orange hues. In that tranquil moment, I recognized something profound. The heartbreak had shaped me, but it didn't own me. I had faced the lies, the pain, and the sense of loss, and I had come out stronger. Emma's final text, her confession that Mark had betrayed her too, barely mattered now. She had tried to find solace in me once more, but I was no longer the man clinging to illusions. I wished her well, silently, hoping she might find her own resolution. But I wouldn't let her or Mark weigh me down again. I decided to keep moving. My path was my own, not dictated by heartbreak or memories of a marriage that couldn't last. I understood now that trust, love, and honesty were crucial foundations I'd never again compromise on. Sometime later, on a quiet evening, I booked a flight back to the States. Not to the same city, though. I needed a different environment, a place to truly begin anew. I settled on a bustling, vibrant locale I'd always dreamed of living in. The day I arrived, stepping off the plane, I felt the old pang of nerves. Yet it was mixed with hope. I had a couple of interviews lined up for new job opportunities, and a short-term rental to settle into while I found a permanent home. It was exhilarating to think of building a life from scratch. My first night in that new apartment, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, I sat on the couch and allowed myself a rare moment of reflection. I had lost so much in such a short time, my marriage, my best friend, my sense of stability. But I had gained clarity, freedom, and self-discovery. There was no neat, tidy bow wrapping up my story. I still had questions, regrets, and the occasional pang of residual anger. But I also had a future I could shape. I wasn't certain of everything, but I was certain of one truth. I would never again let betrayal or heartbreak define who I was. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I thought about the cobblestone streets of Rome, the shimmering canals of Venice, the fiery sunsets of Barcelona, and I smiled. My heart no longer felt heavy. I was truly, finally free, ready to discover the next chapter of my life on my own terms. And no matter what came next, I knew I would face it with the resilience forged from pain and the gratitude born from renewal.